Welcome to this Tutor to You Sociology topic video on education. In this video we're going to look at the publication by Archer and Francis, Challenging Classes. Louise Archer and Becky Francis are two leading contemporary sociologists of education. In 2006 they published Challenging Classes, exploring the role of social class within the identities and achievement of British Chinese pupils. This was an important study because it focused on a group often overlooked in debates about educational inequality: British Chinese students. While much research has examined the underachievement of working class Black Caribbean or white working class pupils, Archer and Francis turned their attention to a group that, statistically, performs very well. They asked, how do British Chinese students achieve so highly, and what role does social class play in shaping their identities and outcomes? The context for this study is the persistent attainment gap in British education. By the 2000s, data consistently showed that Chinese and Indian pupils were amongst the highest achieving groups at GCSE and A-level, often performing white middle-class students. At the same time, sociologists were debating the role of ethnicity, class and culture in shaping educational outcomes. The stereotype of the model minority was increasingly being applied to Chinese students. Archer and Francis wanted to challenge simplistic explanations and show how class and cultural factors intersect in shaping achievement. Sociologically, the study is grounded in interactionist and critical race perspectives, but it also draws on Bourdieu's ideas of cultural capital and habitus. Archer and Francis argue that success cannot just be explained by ethnicity alone, but by the ways Chinese families deploy cultural values and strategies, often in relation to their class position. They also critically integrate the model minority stereotype, showing that while high achievement is often celebrated, it can mask real challenges, including racism and pressure. In terms of research methods, Archer and Francis used a qualitative approach, conducting in-depth interviews and focus groups with British Chinese pupils, parents and teachers, as well as analysing statistical data on attainment. This mixed method approach allowed them to combine the big picture of achievement patterns with the lived experience of students. The strength of this is that it captures both what is happening and why it is happening. However, one limitation is that qualitative interviews rely on self-report, so responses may be shaped by what participants want to present, and the sample was not nationally representative. So what did they find? Firstly, Archer and Francis confirmed that British Chinese pupils consistently achieved very highly in UK schools. This challenges stereotypes of ethnic minority underachievement and raises questions about how class and ethnicity interact. Secondly, they found that family values and expectations play a crucial role. Many Chinese parents, regardless of social class, placed a strong emphasis on hard work, discipline and respect for education. Education was often seen as the key route to upward social mobility, especially for families who had migrated to the UK. One pupil in a study commented that parents always said, if you don't work hard, you'll shame your family, and this pressure meant that pupils felt a strong sense of duty to succeed. Thirdly, Archer and Francis discovered that social class shaped how these values were put into practice. Middle-class Chinese families often combined high expectations with access to resources such as private tutoring, books and cultural enrichment. Working-class Chinese families, while lacking the same resources, often compensated through intensive parental involvement and strict regimes around homework. This shows that cultural values interact with class resources to produce success. Additionally, the study highlighted that the model minority stereotype can be a double-edged sword. While teachers often praise Chinese pupils as hard-working and disciplined, this sometimes led to their achievements being taken for granted. It also masked experiences of racism or struggles with identity, as some pupils felt that teachers assumed they would succeed without support, which could be isolating. Finally, Archer and Francis stressed that achievement came with costs. Pupils described high levels of pressure and anxiety, with some feeling they could never meet the standards set by their families. This raises important questions about well-being as well as attainment. In evaluating the study, there are clear strengths. The qualitative data provides powerful insights into the voices and experience of British Chinese pupils, a group often neglected in research. The focus on the intersection of class, ethnicity and identity is also sophisticated and avoids simplistic explanations. The study remains relevant today, especially as British Chinese students continue to achieve highly in exams. However, there are also criticisms. Some argue that focusing on one ethnic group may reinforce stereotypes rather than challenging them, and that the sample is not representative of all British Chinese experiences, especially across different regions. Others may say that the study overemphasises cultural explanations and underplays structural factors like school policies, teacher bias, or wider inequalities. For AQA A-level sociology exams, Archer and Francis is an extremely useful study. In questions on why ethnic groups achieve better than others, their findings about British Chinese success provide strong evidence for cultural explanations. Students can also use the study to evaluate explanations of ethnic achievement. For example, while cultural deprivation theories argue that some ethnic groups underachieve due to lack of parental support, Archer and Francis show the opposite. Strong family values support achievement. At the same time, their work can be used to evaluate the idea of meritocracy, since even successful groups face racism and pressure. The study also links well with other research, including Strand's research on class and ethnicity, Cecile Wright on black pupils' experiences of racism, and Gilbourne and Udell on institutional racism. Together, these studies show that ethnic achievement patterns are complex, shaped by intersections of class, culture and race. In summary, Archer and Francis show that British Chinese pupils achieve highly, but not simply because of ethnicity. Family values, class resources and cultural capital all play a role, and their work challenges stereotypes and reminds us that success is shaped by social context as much as individual effort. That concludes this Tutor to You Sociology topic video on education, looking at the work of Archer and Francis on challenging classes. Thanks for watching.